Peace, 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 abundance, health, wealth, strength, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding I grant unto you all. Peace, peace, peace. Yes. So, this is not really a message to my collective or my soul tribe. This is more so a message to whoever it concerns. So this message I will be talking about things that have went down in the past, and I think I will speak about from the point that I could remember, from me being a little toddler coming right up to this moment. So, first and foremost, I, for some reason, couldn't remember anything from certain stages of my life. Like, I always been wondering to myself why I can't remember things like from I was like 3, 4, a tender age. And I always heard, even 5, I always heard persons speaking that they remember things from they were 3 and a very young age. And I was always puzzling and wondering to myself why I couldn't, only to come to the realization that it was all spell work. Yes, so I've been a victim of voodoo, spell work, or obia, whatever you want to call it, from I would like to say pushed out of the womb, or even before I was pushed out of the womb. Yes, my friend. So, as I stated in the previous video where I was speaking about who I am and how I came into the knowing of such information, I spoke about the person who I thought was my father, who is actually my uncle. I mentioned that he said that they used to fight a lot for who would keep me. That's with him and his spouse, who was proclaimed to be my mother, which is not my mother. I'm not even related to them at all. I think I would like to say also that even though I pushed out so much information in the video about who I am, most of the vital information were suppressed because of spell work. I don't think you guys would even understand what I went through just to get that message out. It wasn't easy because they were doing spell work to keep me silent. Most of you don't know about those things. I was picking up on the energy of padlock with frog. There's this spell where they do with padlock on a frog. I think they put the padlock on the frog's mouth to keep one silent. There are other stuff that they do but that is what they do to keep one silent. It's mostly used on instances for court cases and all these things, which is what I am going through right now. So yes, it was very hard for me to get that information out, even though I spoke on those things. There are more vital things that I should have spoken. And at that moment when I was even speaking out on those things, it was like a moment of memory loss. I had to be digging in my memory to get out what I wanted to get out, even though it wasn't what I actually wanted to get out to the full extent. So yes, I could only remember from a point where I only remember one instance. They always used to tell me stories about their past. It was always the self-proclaimed mother giving me one story and the self-proclaimed father giving me another. But both of the stories opposed each other. One was saying one was faulty and the other was saying it was the other who was faulty. As I said, they were always fighting to have me because whoever had me would have the money bag. So yes, but I only remembered one instance where I don't have any remembrance of where they were going at it, like fighting each other. I only remember one instance where my uncle, whose name is Mark, first and foremost I think I should say their names. The self-proclaimed mother is Natalie Bashford. The self-proclaimed father is the uncle is Wayne Ellis. Mark Ellis is my uncle, the brother of Wayne Ellis. So I could only remember one instance where the self-proclaimed mother came when I was on my way to basic school one morning, because I went to basic school at an age where I should be at primary, I think, something like that. But at the time, the basic school was at a church. The church is still in the community. Yes, so I remember one morning where she came and she told them that she would take me to buy me something, and she actually had plans to carry me to her home or take me away. And I don't know if it was persons who saw her with me and made it known to them, but I remember being at this shop and my uncle Mark came and started to beat her, box her up and all these things, and took me from her and all these things. But they always been giving me stories about how she was, and she always been giving me stories about how he was. Oh, I can also remember growing up as a toddler. It was my grandmother who raised me. I know I said in the previous video that I was raised by my uncle, But the reason why I said that is because he was the one who I saw dealing with things financially, and he was actually around. He was actually around for a good amount of time because he used to work at a foul club in Old Harbor. So I was staying with my grandmother, but when I started, I think it was, when I was going to primary, he was around. He was even living in the same house that I was at one point, living with me and my grandmother. Well, my grandmother took care of me. Oh, I could remember hardly really going to spend time with the self-proclaimed mother because for some reason they wanted to keep me away from her, because it's like they knew that she had agendas. As I said, they told me that, well, it wasn't until I got older, it wasn't until I was thinking that I was 21 years old, I got that information that she burnt me up. I was told that I pulled a bottle of hot water on myself when I was a child. That was the story they gave me. So as I said, I grew up with my grandmother. My grandmother took care of me. I was always being told that as a young child, she was sending spirits to unalive me. She was doing spell works to unalive me because they always told me that she had persons in her family that were witches and warlocks. And she also told me that too. Yes, so they always were telling me that she was sending spirits to unalive me. No. I also remember at one point where I was told by self-proclaimed father that I was sick at one point because she was sending spirits towards me. She was conjuring up her great grand or grandmother spirit to harm me, and I was at a point where I almost died, and he had to bring me to a spiritualist. The spiritualist had to kill information. The spiritualist had to kill a pigeon and bathe me in the blood and all this stuff. I was also told that by my grandmother that there was this instance where I was sleeping with her and her husband, and they weren't married at that moment. It was a short while after they got married. She was unalived, and also he was unalived through spell work. So I was told that I was sleeping betwixt them, and she had a vision where she saw a spirit came pushing a stick through a window to juke me with that stick, and she used her hand and boxed away the stick. And when she arose in the rising, her hand was swollen for about a week. Yes, so that was what I was told. And as I said, I didn't really go to visit the self-proclaimed mother often. It was once in a while. But after going, it was after I got to a certain age also, where she had the privilege to have me visit her. Oh, I could remember from visiting her at a young age. I remember she and my self-proclaimed sister, when they were about to take bath, or they took a bath and were about to put on their garments or whatever, they would do that naked before me. Countless of times they would do that naked before me. And it was her sister, which is my self-proclaimed aunt, which is I don't even remember her name at the moment. She was the one who came at one point and saw that that was what was taking place, and told her that it didn't look right and all these things. And growing up as a little child, they treated me, I would say they didn't treat me in any bad manner, but they were always doing spell works behind the scene. And I think the reason for that, it was because it was like they had to been fighting against each other, so they didn't really have the time to focus on trying to get me out, because to my understanding, to my understanding, the project was to unalive me in a covert manner, to let it seem like I died from sickness or natural causes, as you would want to say. So yes, that was their plans, but it was like they also fell in love with me as a child, being the angelic being I was. Even though they were being placed as handlers, they fell in love with me as a child. But as I grew older, it was like a more love-hate situation. I remember when I used to go to my self-proclaimed mother, she always told me stories like she wanted me to hate my self-proclaimed father and vice versa. But me having understanding and knowledge, I knew that it wasn't, or I think to myself that it wasn't right for me to hate any one of them because of their bad dealings with each other. So I showed love to them both. But it was also spell work done for me to also like favor either one of them. So it was a war between them spiritually and physically to have me also. So I can remember when I was around the age, I would say from high school, from I think 13, 14, those age bracket, which remember my real identity was stolen, so that wasn't even my real age. But between those brackets, when I started high school, I used to mostly visit her on holidays, and when I always visit, it was always arguments. I didn't have a good, it was a bad experience with both of them, because it was more a love-hate situation as I got older. When I was younger though, I was a cry baby. I used to cry for the simplest of things, and I was very silent. I didn't speak much. I was the type of kid who would want something and wouldn't even speak and say I want it. I would rather cry for it instead of speaking up and say I wanted it, which was also spell work for me to suppress and keep in the pain. So they did those things from I was young, so that when I was old, I would be that way. I would be in those cycles, because that is how spell work really works. You have to do it in a particular manner, and they understood those things. As I said, they were a part of cult and all these things. As I said also, it was a bad experience with both of them, because they never used to beat me, but it was very traumatizing how they treated me. They dealt with me through, I went through a lot of verbal abuse and all these things. And also the self-proclaimed mother, she was a person who, it was like she had no shame tree. So persons in the community would look down on her, which was something that I had to deal with, because she would do things that were out of the norm, which would let persons look down on her, which was just her trauma from childhood also, I guess. she would do things out of the norm without any care in the world of what people would say or think of her. And I was aware of what persons were thinking and saying of her, which had me going through a lot of trauma. So it was like at one moment I didn't even want to be around her at most of the time, because it would be like the things that people are saying about her, it was like I had that feeling that they were saying it about me also. I felt that people were looking down on me also. And as I said, it was a bad experience with both of them. I remember we were always in arguments. Her brother, Donovan Bashford, who was, or should I say, is still overseas. He was, from my knowing, or me knowing him, he was overseas in foreign country, working to my knowing and understanding of what I was told. And he used to help with my schooling and all these things. He used to also send money for me, like for holidays and all these stuff. It was also a good relationship between me and him. Was always over the phone. He used to call me a lot and speak with me and all these things, and see him interested in me getting good grades in school and all these things. So I had him as a good uncle, because I thought that he was actually my uncle. Now, as I said, I was always in argument with the self-proclaimed mother, because he would let me know that he sent X amount and she would take away whatever she wanted out of that. She was always taking from me. I was a young man who used to save a lot. Even when I was going to high school, I saved a lot. I would save even all of my lunch money for the whole week, just to buy a shoes that I want or so forth, because I wasn't a person who had parents who would buy me stuff. From my reflection back on the past, I don't have no knowledge of neither of them folks buying me garments and all these stuff, because I used to get garments from a self-proclaimed uncle, which is the brother of my self-proclaimed mother, Natalie Bashford. So they think to themselves that they didn't have to buy me those stuff, and blase blase. But I was the type of person where I wasn't getting the stuff that I would like, so I would save and buy what I want. And I was also told at one point by my self-proclaimed father that he knows that he doesn't have to buy me clothes and shoes because I save and buy them. Now, as I was saying, she would take from me a lot. I would save even my money, and because I would let her know that I have it, she would take it from me and do whatever she wanted with it, saying that she's borrowing it and would never give it back countless of times. And also, she only dealt with me in good manner when she had her way with me, when she could tell me to do stuff and I do it. Once she told me to do something and I didn't do it, there was an argument, and there was nothing that she wouldn't tell me to deteriorate me, to make me feel away, verbal abuse me. I was always being told, you coming like your papa, you coming like, it was those instances, you coming like your papa, you go come out just like your mama. Those things. So now to the self-proclaimed father side, he was one who always deal with me rough. So growing up, I didn't really speak to him as I would really speak to the self-proclaimed mother. I had a better relationship with the self-proclaimed mother than the self-proclaimed father, because the self-proclaimed father dealt with me harsh, because he was being dealt with harsh by his father, as he said. His father used to deal with him away, and his father, they always tell me that their father never bought them anything and all these stuff. They have to work for what they want and all these stuff. No, I remember when I used to go and visit at the folk hubby was working. That was when I was young. As I said, it was when I got older, high school stage, where they really started to mistreat me the real way. Being a little child, I didn't have much knowledge of them mistreating me, other than now I can say they were doing it spiritually. So when he came from that, he stopped working at the folk club. He came where my grandma was. My grandma was a nice lady. She dealt with me like a king. She grew me with manners. She grew me. She was a great lady. There's nothing bad I have to say about my grandmother.